going on in China this weekend, but I'm guessing because we kind of know that Max Verstappen will win, not too much exciting moments there. The NBA playoffs are almost set. We have two more games tonight to determine the two remaining teams for both the Eastern and Western Conference, and we will be able to put the matchup finally. We'll touch a little bit on some people's character. Yes, the Gunners. Are you the Gunners as in ammunition, or are you the Gunners as in losers? We talk about that. And then we'll talk about the big matches this weekend. So Chelsea takes on Manchester City in the FA Cup. The El Clasico is this weekend, and the Milan Derby is this weekend. So we'll touch on all those three. But before we do any of that, could you tell us how we can be a part of the locker room this morning?
Gladly. WhatsApp number 0809 440 981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. And we're streaming live on our YouTube channel. Yay, yay, yay. So all you need to do is just subscribe. It's Smooth981. And you can catch the live stream up on YouTube. And you can also post your comments on there as well.
So let's go through the headlines, and then we'll see how it goes from there.
Okay. NBA. Philadelphia 76ers edge past Miami Heat to reach playoffs. Stuttgart Open. Emma Raducanu beats Linda Noskova to set up quarterfinal with Iga Swiatek. No regrets for Man City boss Guardiola after shootout loss to Real Madrid. Kane relishes Champions League duel with Bellingham. Inter seeking Milan Derby Serie A title delight. Martinez avoids red card, saves penalties to send Villa into semis. Real Madrid receive Vinicius Jr. and Dani Carvajal fitness boosts ahead of El Clasico. And FA Cup replay changes a total lack of respect for football pyramid.
All right, all those stories. We'll talk about the FA Cup replays, and I think the clubs in the lower division are angry because they want to scrap the replays from the very first round, and the Premier League clubs they are trying to protect don't even play in the very first round. So we'll talk about that when we get there. But let's quickly touch on what is happening in the United States of America. Those wicked people. Did you see their Olympic team list? Very wicked team list. They hired mercenaries. So let's talk about the NBA that produced those mercenaries.
All right, the Philadelphia 76ers came from behind to edge past the Miami Heat and reach the NBA playoffs. A sluggish start saw the 76ers booed by the crowd as the Heat took a 51-39 halftime lead.
When this matchup came in, I was just like, why didn't these two teams play very well during the season? But Miami Heat had their many rotation issues, and 76ers had to play lots of games without Joel Embiid. So it kind of made it a little tough. But both teams get into the play-ins, and it was sad that they were facing each other because I mean, you really want to see the 76ers in the playoffs, and you also want to see Jimmy Butler in the playoffs. There's a Jimmy Butler playoff mode, trust me. But when the game started, it did look like the Heat were going to go all the way through the playoffs, and then 76ers to play through because they struggled. Like you said, the crowd was upset. It was like they couldn't defend. Miami Heat were getting in the corner, knocking down the trays. They were driving through the paint. They were getting the free throws. Unfortunately, they were getting the free throws where they most in general making only about 50% of them, and that was part of the problem for Miami Heat down the stretch because ultimately they lost the game by 1 point. One.
Ooh.
105
Whoa.
to 104. That's how close they were. And so it's all those missed opportunities, all those missed second chance opportunities you're looking at. But after the halftime, I don't know what Nick Nurse said in the locker room. They came out in a completely different shape. And I think they went on a 6-0 run to kind of bring the game closer. And from there, it was trading shots. Both teams were solid defensively, I would say that. Battling for the rebounds, both offensively and defensively. But it came down to, if you ask me, all those points, especially those points that Miami Heat missed on the line, the free throws. And so 76ers are through now. They play the New York Knicks. But Miami Heat have one more opportunity, and they play tonight. So if they could win that game, they're through to the next round. So tough one. On the Western Conference side is the Kings taking on the Pelicans. So let's see how those games go. I really want to see Jimmy Butler playoff mode. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for the Miami Heat.
Speaking about the Heat, is Iguodala still there?
No, Iguodala moved to the Warriors and out of rotation.
Oh,
He's not a
wow.
young spring chicken anymore. So
I know he was an OG at the time, in fact. Okay. Britain's Emma Raducanu produced a dominant display against Linda Noskova to set up a last 8 meeting with Iga Swiatek at the Stuttgart Open. Raducanu needed 81 minutes to claim a straightforward 6-0, 7-5 victory.
Yeah, that was the shocker because Linda Noskova has been doing a lot of rounds on the tour recently. She really came into form. She's always been a great tennis player, but she really came into form towards the end of last year, sometime this year. And, beating Iga Swiatek, world number one in a Grand Slam tournament, she's taken a lot of top 10 players out. And so we saw her against an Emma Raducanu whose best tennis was played in 2001. Had to change several coaches, had to be without coaches, had several injuries, had several surgeries. So she was not in the best of form, but she came into Stuttgart Open and suddenly 2001 US Open, I have to be precise about the Emma Raducanu we are seeing. It's a 2001 US Open Emma Raducanu that's on court right now. And she is blitzing it, When she won her first match, we were like, okay, good win. Let's see if she can back it up. And then she backs up. And then she comes up against Noskova. Now, Noskova may not be the biggest name, but because of the scalps she's taking on tour this season, I didn't expect that she'd be bageled in the first set by Emma Raducanu. And she struggled. It wasn't that she was making mistakes. Yes, she had those, but Emma Raducanu was making her work. And Emma, she doesn't, she moves people around, but Emma Raducanu is a little athletic. She has good court coverage, but her serves and her forehand yesterday were on fire. So she was completely blitzing everything that Noskova was bringing. And so it was a really tough day for Noskova, but for Emma Raducanu, it was brilliant form, the kind of form you expected to see, especially after she won the US Open and completely disappeared. So great form she's in, but she next faces Iga Swiatek. Now, Iga Swiatek has won this tournament back to back. If she has 2 Porsches now, because if you win the Stuttgart Open, you get a Porsche. So she doesn't need to buy a car. She just goes to Stuttgart and wins a car. And so she's won the blue Porsche, she's won the red Porsche. I don't know what color she's going to pick if they allow her to win this year, but this is her tournament. So she's defending champion here, and she faces an Emma Raducanu who is in great form. So what it promises for me is that it's going to be a fantastic matchup. But for both of them, this would really be a test for Emma Raducanu if she's really back, or if this is just a great form session.
All right. Let us know your thoughts. 0809 444 0981. On to football. Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola was gracious in defeat after their dreams of a historic second successful treble were dashed by a stubborn Real Madrid on Wednesday in a Champions League quarter-final game the English club had thoroughly dominated.
Yeah, so I would say this. I don't think he was gracious. I think he'll be content. When your team plays and you get knocked out via penalties.
Zero 0809 444 0981.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Number. Now I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. So when your team gets to the penalty shootout and gets knocked out there, you can, take it that your team gave their all on the pitch. But I would say this, Manchester City did have opportunities. Don't get me wrong. Real Madrid were really resolute. After scoring in the 12th minute, they did their best and they stopped Manchester City from getting a goal. Kevin De Bruyne eventually gets the equalizer. But I would say Manchester City did have opportunity to win it, especially that last minute chance that fell to Erling Haaland. And in that moment, if Erling Haaland hadn't been worried in the past few weeks about his form, this loss should make him worried because it was him the ball and the net, and he blasted it over the bar. So Manchester City could have won it in the dead of extra time, and Erling Haaland's bad form. I mean, the end of regulation time, Erling Haaland's bad form took this match into extra time, and from extra time, it was both teams running on E. That's all it was. And then it came down to the penalty shootout, and again, I'll say for Pep Guardiola, all of his or most of his team can shoot. But he had taken off Kevin De Bruyne, that's a penalty taker. He had taken off Erling Haaland, that's a penalty taker. And when Bernardo Silva stepped to the plate, and then Bernardo Silva scores his penalties on a normal day, so he's one of the designated penalty takers. But when he steps up to the plate and he plays a back pass, it was a literal back pass to the goalkeeper. You kind of started wondering that maybe they shouldn't have substituted Haaland. Maybe they should have just left him there for penalties at least. At least he scores his penalties. He may miss a tap in recent months, but he will still score his penalties. So all those little foxes are the ones that spoil the vine. So yes, you can forgive yourself if your team loses in the penalty shootout. Let's not even talk about Arsenal's loss. That's a completely different one. But it was a tough one for Manchester City. But they're out now. But they get to face Chelsea in the FA Cup. So if they can use this to bounce back in the FA Cup against Chelsea, that'd be a good one for them. But it's tough considering the fact that remember earlier this season they played a 4-4 draw with Chelsea. In fact, they survived Chelsea. It's not like they survived Chelsea. And so when you have had a tough face off with a team like that during the season, and then you come up from a tough loss into another tough match against that same Chelsea side who seem to be in great form now. It could be a tough one. So let's see how it goes for Manchester City. But yes, it's easy to be gracious if your team loses in a penalty shootout. It's easy.
All right. You're still listening to the Locker Room on Smooth 98.1. Tega, can we take a few messages before we go on a break quickly? Tega?
Sure, let's take a few.
All right, let's see. This one is from I'm trying to see. I can't see a name here, but it says exactly how did Klopp and Liverpool expect to skip shining after Mane, the true star of the team, not the fake overhyped Salah, left? Exactly how badly Chelsea will be trashed in the FA Cup. What about Madrid in El Clasico? Expect a strange UCL final. All right. Bolu says, on my way to work, and I'll finally check with a lady who cracks me up every morning in the locker room. Looks like, of course, that's Tega. And he says, happy weekend. Tayo says, the god of banter continues to deliver after Barcelona's exit. Arsenal and Man City crashing out is too good to be true. Somebody pinch me. The words of Ashake, Premier League is not UEFA. Kepa and Rudiger have now become director of penalty. Pep is tweaking his team left and right, while Don Carlo is using the power of friendship. More doings this weekend. Padre Pio on YouTube said, played a back pass, Tega, with like 1,000 A's at the end.
But yeah, it's not back pass he played. All right, let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll be taking more messages.
So what's happening to Haaland? Like the guy was on fire a while back, but it's like the fire don't quench.
I'm sure his father has arrived in England. I can almost guarantee because that miss, and Manchester. I mean, if he puts that ball in the back of the net, Manchester City are through. We are having a completely different show this morning.
What's going on? I beg you. It's like he has gotten into his head now.
No, I don't think it's no. So players suffer this dip of form all the time, but with Haaland's dip of form, he's still scoring one or two here. It's not a complete drought like Gabriel Jesus. Gabriel Jesus now, you have to wash his head in water. Haaland, you know that he is in trouble because of the chances he's missing. Not that he's not scoring. So he still has one or two goals. Let me think about it. The guy has scored 30 goals this season. How do you want to tell someone that?
Well, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
How do you want to tell someone that
he could do like double of that?
Exactly. So the question is, how do you want to tell someone that he's having a bad season? How many goals has he scored? 30. They will slap you. But when you watch the matches and you see the chances he's missing, they're like, okay, yes, there is something off with him. And so that's the problem. And if he had scored, I can tell you, if he scored that goal, completely different shows. Football will have completely different quotes this morning. Then he misses that chance. And Pep Guardiola is just like, I can't see this kind of bad thing anymore, and take him.
Keto.
Do you know how bad it is that they need to score goals in a match to win, and the coach says, "I'm taking you off."
Like, that is weird.
Yeah, so there's obviously a performance issue that. So me, I still thought they should have left him on because I knew that once they got into extra time, that penalty we go reach. You know, there are some things you know that it's going to go to penalty. So Pep Guardiola should have just left him on because that's your penalty taker.
Jeez.
You now take him off. And yes, all the other guys can shoot penalties, but he's the one that takes penalties consistently. And he's the first, he's the first point, he has the first right for refusal.
Speaking of that, what is up with these Chelsea people and dragging who take penalties again? Anyways, we're going on now.
Okay, all right.
You're inside the locker room on Smooth 98.1. It's Tega and Zibby. It's all about the sports. Tegs.
All right. So let's let's go into some stories because the stories are a lot.
All right. Our next story, still with football. Bayern Munich striker. Is that the one I want? Yes. So Bayern Munich striker Harry Kane looked forward to the Champions League semi-final meeting with England teammate Jude Bellingham's Real Madrid, saying it was, in quote, why they moved abroad.
So tough one for Arsenal. So let's touch on the Arsenal match before we get to why Harry Kane instead of Bukayo Saka is facing Jude Bellingham. It was so you know when the draws were made, Bayern Munich in a tough position. They couldn't buy a win from anywhere in the Bundesliga. Were knocked out by a third-tier team. Notice, third-tier team from the German Cup. Really in poor form. They lost the league that they've held for 11 years by 16 points. Well, they are losing it by 16 points. The league is not yet over. To Bayern, a club people used to call Bayern Leverkusen, because they never won, and so now they're Bayern Leverkusen. So by 16 whole points, and so you're facing an Arsenal side who is at the top of the table, contender for the English Premier League, hadn't lost in 2024 until this weekend to Aston Villa, but hadn't lost in the league. It looked like a great Arsenal side against one of the worst Bayern Munich side I've seen in my life, and I've been on this planet for 4 decades, so I should know. And you put those teams together, of course, the favorite to win was Arsenal. And then the first match where Arsenal was playing at home, it was a question of defending your turf because Arsenal let 2 goals in from a Bayern Munich side that was struggling in form. And yes, they were able to come out of that match with a draw. But what it showed was that Bayern Munich, despite all the problems they had, were able to match Arsenal toe for toe. And so when they went to Germany, it should have been a completely different side for Arsenal, especially when Arsenal had lost to Aston Villa over the weekend. But I've always said this thing about Arsenal. The problem with Arsenal now is not tactical. It's not necessarily personnel. That is there too, with a sprinkling. But it's ultimately character. Because you know that Arsenal will fold when it comes down to it. Look, sometimes the teams are not in the best form, but they are producing results because that is their football heritage. Arsenal doesn't have that to draw back on. Like Thierry Henry said, when you get to Arsenal, you are a little more comfortable. When he played in Italy, there was pressure. When he went to Arsenal, he was a little more comfortable. He became the Igwe of Highbury. And then when he went to Barcelona, there was more pressure because weekend in, weekend out, even regardless of the fact that they were winning, one win meant you needed another extra win. But at Arsenal, you can be a little comfortable, and if you lose, they'll be like, "Okay, at least we tried our best. That's it. We move
That
on."
is a good
But,
work environment now, Tega. That's not a
no,
toxic work
no,
environment.
that's not a great work environment, and the enemy of great is good. That's the ultimate problem because you get too complacent to be ambitious enough to win trophies, and that's what has happened to Arsenal. They're so comfortable there. And so you play against a Bayern Munich side that's one of the worst Bayern Munich sides ever, and they managed to still score against you. Arsenal's problem wasn't that they conceded a goal. Arsenal's problem was that they didn't even create enough chances to put the ball in the back of the net. And that's a character issue. It's no longer tactical sometimes. It's a character issue. And it stems down from the coach who is saying we should take this loss and use it to push for the Premier League. The Premier League is not in your hands. The Champions League was. So at this point in time, they are jumped out again. They could end the season trophyless, and this is one of the best things in Arsenal's recent years. And Bayern Munich, the team that should be having their worst season ever, is moving on to face Real Madrid. I still think Real Madrid is going to come out tops in that tie. But the truth is, Bayern Munich pushed themselves, despite their form, to get to the semi-final. So tough one for Arsenal, but great one for Harry Kane, who people have been saying he took his cursed self to Bayern Munich. and because he took his cursed self there, they could end the season without a trophy. But they have an opportunity in the Champions League. And if you know anything about Thomas Tuchel can have the most outside chance of winning the Champions League and he'll win it. Remember how he did it with Chelsea. So let's see how it goes for them there.
All right. Inter Milan can secure their 20th Serie A title on Monday by piling on more humiliation at AC Milan in one of the most hotly anticipated city derbies in years.
Yes, so AC Milan, remember AC Milan played in the Europa Cup and they lost to Roma. And let me add that Roma had scored, yes, but Roma had eventually went one man down. Now, the only thing AC Milan could do was get one goal when Roma were 10 man, but they needed more than one goal. So they lost the first leg to Roma, and then they also lost the second leg at Roma to Roma again. So very tough, embarrassing defeat for a team that is in the same league with you. And then the reward for losing to Roma in Europa is to face Inter Milan in the Italian Serie A. Now, here's what is at stake. Inter Milan and AC Milan are rival teams. They share the same stadium. They are rival fans. They are the derby, like the Arsenal Tottenham derby, like the Liverpool Everton derby, like the Manchester derby. That is AC Milan and Inter Milan. And Inter Milan have the opportunity, should they win against AC Milan, to take this Scudetto. So there's too much at stake in that derby. The humiliation can be complete because if Inter Milan should win the derby, then they win the Scudetto. Then the celebration starts from the pitch, right in front of the noses of the AC Milan fans. There's no worse humiliation than that. So tough one for Inter Milan. It's been a tough week, and it could get even tougher.
All right. Let's talk Martinez. Aston Villa goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez saved 2 spot kicks and survived a bizarre red card incident as his side beat French club Lille on penalties to reach the Europa Conference League semi-finals yesterday.
So yes, even I didn't know that that rule. You know that if you get a yellow card in the regulation time game, if you get a penalty in the shootout, it will not count as a second yellow. I was like, what? When did they write all these laws? But they're one of the rare occurrences that happen. They're one of the rare occurrences that happen in football that because they don't happen often enough, people don't know what those rules are.
Tega?
Sorry, they are one of the rare occurrences that happen that people don't know what those rules are. So Emi Martinez with his Emi Martinez can come up as annoying, cantankerous, whatever word the French especially would use for him. But he will do his job. And I think that is what makes him doubly annoying because his personality is already taunting. And then he'll now do an excellent job against your team. So you'll not be even mad because there's nothing to use to abuse him. So right. He's playing for Aston Villa against Lille. And Lille is leading. They're knocking Aston Villa out. And the Lille fans are booing Emi Martinez because remember what Emi Martinez did to them at the FIFA World Cup, where Argentina now went on to win the World Cup. It was against France, and they saw all the taunting, and they saw all the drama, and they saw how he kept them to win the World Cup. And so the French fans anywhere hate him. So they've been booing him for 120 minutes. Then they get to the penalty shootout, and he saves 2 penalties. And after he saves the penalty, he turns to the fans. He didn't move from the spot. He just turns to the fans and starts to roll his waist.
Oh my goodness.
It was the most... Look, if I'm a Lille fan, I would throw a shoe. I'm not lying. Because it can be painful. My team just lost and you're dancing against us.
Right.
And he starts to dance. And then he does that thing he does at the World Cup where he's doing the backside and his team is running towards him to hail him because he's the hero of the day.
That's not good sportsmanship.
That is he that knows. It's good entertainment for me. Great entertainment for me because they've been booing him for 120 minutes. They did not know Abi. So it was an aha moment. I had such a good laugh, but I understand how the Leo fans can be very upset, and how other players can be very upset with him. Because yes, like you said, it's not a good spirit of sportsmanship, but it's part of the entertainment. And so Aston Villa are through, and a lot of people are saying because Unai Emery is the coach of Aston Villa, that there's a chance that Aston Villa could win another European trophy. There's just that one chance. Let's see how it goes.
All right. After successfully overcoming a 120-minute long battle with Manchester City on Wednesday night, which ensured their place in the semi-finals of the Champions League, Real Madrid will now start looking ahead to another titanic battle on Sunday, El Clasico.
Yes, and it doesn't matter that there's 8 points between Barcelona and Real Madrid. It doesn't matter that there's a chance that Barcelona is not defending their title. Because it's the El Clasico, they're going to bring it. And Real Madrid played 120 minutes, played penalties. Barcelona capitulated. The way they fell apart in 90 minutes is epic. It's historic. They have to check about it. They have to study it in universities. And so they are looking for redemption from anywhere. Now, there's also a rift in the locker room, I may add, because Ilkay Gundogan said something during interviews that most people refuse to admit. So they asked him about the red card to Araujo, and he says, and I quote, because he qualified his statement, he said, I haven't yet seen the foul. However, so I've not yet seen the foul, so I don't know if he got the ball. However, if you are the last man, you should strive to get the ball. And so if you don't get the ball, then it's a red card. That's all he said. He did not blame Araujo. He did not blame his team. He just analyzed the situation. Trust my colleagues in the media to twist it into meaning that he did not defend his team. And so that narrative has carried on. But if you listen to the interview well, he did not throw his teammate under the bus. He categorically said, I haven't even seen the replay. But if he's the last man and he doesn't get the ball, then it's a red card. That's all he said. Though. They now twisted it and it has become a rift in the locker room. And now Araujo is being asked a question and Araujo says he's not speaking to the media about this issue. He's only going to speak to his teammates. Some things are private. And it has become a full-blown issue. You are already losing on the pitch. You now want to be fighting off pitch. And the El Clasico is this Sunday. Where is the hope that you'll be able to redeem yourself? So there's a lot going on in the Barcelona locker room that despite the fact that there will be physical fatigue in the Real Madrid locker room, they may still have advantage in the El Clasico. So let's wait to see if Barcelona will stop fighting amongst themselves and start fighting against Real Madrid or what will happen. But either way, the El Clasico promises to be explosive.
All right. We're almost out of time, so I think we can look at the messages coming through.
All right.
AY from Oniru says, City will now focus fully on their remaining 6 EPL matches, and all I'm seeing is WWW times 3, 6 straight wins, which is win-win-win, to clinch their 4th consecutive EPL title. Let's see. Afi says, someone said Arsenal FC is a TV series, and that's why they always wait for next season.
That's a nice one.
Kane says, yesterday was all over the news that De Bruyne and Haaland actually asked to be substituted. So the City players literally weren't up to it to sustain their double, treble charge. Okay. Ralph says, how does a Manchester City, who's been the most consistent EPL team in recent years, get excused for losing, but Arsenal, who only returned to the UCL this season, get bashed left, right, and centre? How is that fair? Signed an Arsenal fan.
Simon, it is how they lost. Manchester City lost through a penalty shootout. Penalty shootout is literally a lottery. That's what it is. So they played all 120 minutes. It's literally a lottery. So you toss a coin, and that's how Manchester City lost. Arsenal lost in 90 minutes. Like they considered a goal and they couldn't score a goal. How you do something is as important as what you do.
All right, Bosun says, Tega. The energy you used to discuss Arsenal's loss, eh? Now, wow, how can we win you over?
Win a trophy. Just win one trophy.
Wow.
Not FA Cup. Oh. Don't get not FA Cup. Win Premier League or Champions League. I'll be in.
All right, Taya from Aja says, why argue with an Arsenal fan when you can just wait? It's like Klopp is truly running out of energy, so I guess they're now walking alone back to Anfield. Bayern Leverkusen's mindset is fixated on either win or draw. Nothing concerns them with losing. Tega, did you see clips of the boxing match for UBO Africa title that was declared a technical draw by referees when our very own representative laid his opponent flat on the ground, if
I'm
not for
telling you,
social
Ghana,
backlash?
Nigeria, he knocked him out.
Again!
He knocked him out. Do you know what they now did a technical? I was like, how? He was knocked out. My dear, that kind of blatant one, I've not seen it before.
All right, let's see. Cossie Cole says, if not for Oversabi, what concerns Arsenal with Champions League? Okay, that is all the time that we have for the locker room this morning. Tega, unmute thyself.
And on that note, I want to say thank you for sending in your messages. Thank you for tuning into Smooth 98.1 FM. Thank you for streaming on YouTube. And make sure you subscribe before you go. Till we come your way again on Monday.
Monday.
Have a great weekend.